So now we can break down what Vegapunk said about Devil Fruits with this official release of the chapter. And it's not just that, but there are other things in this chapter that kind of get expounded upon a little bit more because of the Viz translation of the chapter. So no scan version, part 1, part 2. There is a reason why we stick with the official for the official review. And it pays off in the long run, I think, personally speaking. A lot of times the scans, there's so many various things here or there, and it is amazing to see folks all the damn time flip-flop on Viz is bad, scans is good, then 2 months later, scans are bad, Viz is good, and it just keeps on happening over the course of the years, and it is pretty funny. So, if you have not seen my live stream reaction to the chapter, you can go where to my Cole Requiem channel, link in the box below. And also, if you want to check out my One Piece and other series for anime reaction content, you can go to my Kingu-san channel. Also, that link is in the box below. As per usual, we're going to break this down step by step for the review. First of all, the pacing and the chapter structure. Second of all, the character components of the chapter. And then finally, the story progression components of the chapter. And before I get started, I have to give a brief word for today's sponsor. And of course, today's sponsor is none other than the Surfshark VPN.
Lovely.
So I'm willing to guess that most of you lads and ladies watching this video are weebs.
Correct, sir.
It is what it is. We are who we are. Our chest held high, and we show the world unabashedly our appreciation of the culture of the land of the rising sun. But in doing so, sometimes we do venture into very dark and dangerous places where individuals that mean us no good, for damn sure, they are going to try and ruin our days, our weeks, our months, especially if it's crypto related. Woo!
My God.
Woo! So, if you wind up in these dark and dangerous places, whether they be rated M for mature or not, it's up to you. But the fact of the matter is that you're gonna want some protection when you do go to these places, and Surfshark VPN has your back. Not only does it have some damn good features, like the clean web feature that removes any ads, malware, or trackers is gonna be there to ruin your day. And even though I love cookies, the fact of the matter is that I hate them online, but Surfshark VPN can easily handle cookies, making my online experience all the more better. Surfshark VPN is quite literally available on all your devices, and also quite literally available all around the world. And one last thing too, if you don't know, now you know, a lot of my content is region gated.
Nani?
But you can easily gain access to mine and other region-gated content easily with Surfshark VPN by simply changing the region where you're located in, and then boom, just like that, you'll gain access to all those features that previously you could not gain access to. So go in the description box down below. Use code COLE, that is KOL, to get not only 3 months free, but also 85% off of your purchase of Surfshark VPN. Once again, 85% off. So on that note, thank you Surfshark VPN for being awesome. Once again, use code COLE, KOL, and now let's get back to the video at hand. So first and foremost, the pacing and the chapter structure. For this chapter, there are a total of 3 parts. Number 1 is the Fabio phase where Luffy and Lucci are meeting up. Number 2 is that we cut to Marine headquarters for like 1 page. The number 3, for the vast majority of the chapter, is back to Egget Island, with the Fabio phase being the main focus, but in conjunction with the Labo phase for the first section of part 3 of this chapter. So overall pacing wise, really, really good, because we have 3 parts, and so our focus is really kind of dead set on what's going on with Luffy as he's fighting against Rob Lucci. Later on, it comes Satomaru and the Seraphim, but also Vegapunk giving us some big, juicy lore nuggets to munch on as we're watching the show, because they are watching what's going on from the Labo phase area. So in terms of pacing and structure, easily one of Oda's better chapters as of late. I would argue that Oda does do his best work when the pacing of the chapter is for the most part like -5 sections. If we get past 5, things this will be great, but much harder press. And then past like 7 or 8, it's like, okay, we're just all over the place. It's literally 1 page equals like 1 section. So for this chapter overall, I would say I did like the pace and structure a lot. I really damn did. It's gonna be 4 stars in my book. So now let's get into the character components for this chapter. And they are not light, not by any margin. And numero uno is, of course, Rob Gucci, aka Rob Lucci. Lucci is awakened. He has the cat fruit model leopard awakened form. He looks just like the antithesis of Luffy with the black smoke ring thing around his shoulders. And that's also in lockstep with his fur also having those same sort of wavy, spiral, black flaming features. He is an awakened Zoan, unlike the impelled down jailer guards, and has maintained his sense of self. His smoke ring design is in fact similar to, again, Luffy and also Yamato as well, though keep in mind that at the moment, Yamato is not an awakened Zoan. Luffy is, I'd argue, a few asterisks have to go there, and of course, Rob Lucci is. But Yamato, as far as we know, is not an awakened Zoan. But then, Rob Lucci, in the manga, for the first time, is confirmed to have armament haki hardening. He did show this in Film Gold, but it's official now. The skill is official. After this, with his new form, he is tremendously quick. Now, how much faster he is from, let's say, his pre-time skip version, we have no idea. But Shaka the Good does note how quick Rob Lucci is. And then finally, he does showcase a new attack called the hand pistol, and this attack seems to be the open hand version of Fukuro's Drugon attack in chapter 404. But for him, it's like a punch, but for Rob Lucci, it's actually an open hand, sort of like piercing claw attack. Now, next for character is going to be Monkey Jesus Luffy. This could be a nothing burger. This could have no value at all. However, it also could be something, therefore I'm going to slide into review. So Luffy did start off this chapter with his Egghead Island closed. However, when we see him next, after Rob Lucci and him have a stare off, he is in his usual getup minus his main shirt. Why? What's going on there, Luffy? So the simple answer, of course, is Luffy just simply took off his clothes to fight against Rob Lucci in Gear 5. Why? I'm not too sure, because Luffy's boots and clothes were quite durable and lightweight, and also had like unique anti-gravity feature stuff. So why did Luffy take off his clothes? My best guess here is that it was probably a artistic choice, because let's say in Oda's mind, he could think to himself, do I really want to make alt designs every time Luffy goes into Gear 5 and he's wearing different clothes? So change the color designs could be a bit annoying for every outfit. Therefore, take the easy approach and take off the clothes pre-Gear 5 and then go shirtless. The more complicated answer is that his dome shoes and his jacket disappear / change, arguably speaking, while he is fighting in Gear 5. Now, we have seen other Zoans with their transformations do something similar. Like, for example, CP9, the pre-time skip, or let's say Jack the Drought, or Queen the Plague, or even Kaido, where their clothes, for the most part, change fit to match their new form. But then in some cases, it gets really strange, like for example, with Kaido's club. Notice how whenever Kaido goes into like gigantic dragon form, his club just disappears. But then when he's back in, let's say, hybrid form or in regular form, his club is all of a sudden back with him. How?
No idea!
So it could be the case here that Oda is giving the same treatment to Monkey D. Luffy. So let's say when Luffy returns back to base form, the clothes all of a sudden mysteriously reappear. So that is the more, that is for sure the more complicated answer, but it's not impossible. Therefore, I'm gonna slide on in. Now, after all of that, Luffy shows off a new attack, the Mole Pistol, where he punches the ground and he turns the ground into rubber and the ground expands up for an attack against Rob Lucci. Now, of course, the mole part is indicative of the ground attacking someone, but it can also be a callback to someone that had a spear called the Mole Spear, Katakuri, where Katakuri in chapter 883 did attack in a similar pattern where he did use the environment around him for attacks. So it could be a callback in some parts to that, potentially. But nonetheless, there is a new attack for Luffy, the Mole Pistol. And finally, on a note here, not for character per se, but just a note. This is the first time we are seeing Luffy use Gear 5 during the daytime. And his form, as far as we know, is still an all-white form. There was a popular theory out there that when the sun rose, his whole style would change more to like an orange-ish style to match the daytime and the sun. But no, he is still all white. So that common theory right now, not looking so good. Finally for character, Frankie. Frankie gets hard eyes and a wavy tongue staring at Vegapunk like Sanji does with attractive women. So this is a sign of his, quote, admiration, end quote, for Vegapunk, the genius who made him what he is now. A freak. I mean a dope ass cyborg with laser beams and funny hairstyles. Muy bueno. So that is it for the character section of this video. Finally, the story progression components of this chapter. Number 1, Mad's flashback in the cover story. This cover story continues to be quite robust, and I do like it. Apparently, DeFeld, the man that Stussy killed during Whole Cake Island, loaned a ship research lab to the mad scientist clique. And of course, in the name of peace, there's even like the pacifist flag they have on top. So DeFeld, back decades ago, made some serious gains with Mads, I'm assuming, because Mads themselves made some serious gains. So that's the first thing, once again, for story, Mads, the cover story. And there's a good chance now that we, let's say, see a much younger Queen the Plague before he joined the Beast Pirates. Next for story is, according to Kaku and Stussy, the emperors cannot be attacked unless the higher-ups give the approval. And the reason why makes a lot of sense. Each emperor has a large network under them, and tussles with them can lead to full-scale wars. So this might mean that the world has gone wind, that Wano country is now assimilated into the Straw Hat fold under Luffy's wing, and also the rumors are being spread in chapter 903 about the 7 powerful pirate crews under Luffy's wing, which includes the Yonta Maria Grand Fleet. Yeah, they're taking that seriously. I mean, I would too. That Yonta Maria Fleet? All them ships? Oh, yeah. We taking that very seriously. So, even though they're rumors, they understand that taking Luffy would lead to further consequences down the line. Keep in mind that Whitebeard is one Yonko, and they had to do so much legwork, so much prep to prepare for one Yonko, Whitebeard. And of course, this also means that Buggy, imagine that, Rob Lucci one day, face to face with Buggy the Clown, he could kill him and save so much trouble. But, no, I don't have the orders from the higher-ups. Buggy, you live. That Buggy's luck is unending. Him and King from One Punch Man, their causality manipulation is off the charts compared to the vast majority of anime and manga characters. They just keep on doing it. After this is, of course, Kizaru. Kizaru is on his way to Vegapunk's place and might be coming with potentially a sense of urgency. Sentomaru is on this island, and he just got clapped by Rob Gucci. We know that Kizaru and him are close to the point where Sentomaru does call him uncle, but in like a Yakuza boss sort of way. And in the past, during the Fisher Tiger flashback, he did have a look that did remind you of a Yakuza sort of higher up. That dame energy for damn sure. And it is a clean look. Like the gray and silver and the black hat. It is a clean look for Kizaru. After that, Luffy and Lucci begin fighting 1v1. And this is where the Viz translation starts to separate from the translation. So Shaka explains that usually in the case of awakened devil fruit users for the zone category, their personalities get absorbed and controlled by that zone ability. But of course, Lucci is clearly not in the same mental state as the impelled down Jailer Beast gods are. The term absorb is a very interesting term for this situation here, because it implies that someone's mind can be lost indefinitely, meaning that, let's say, if you took that impelled down jailer guard beast individual and then you threw them into the ocean, the same way Frankie did Chopper when he was going berserk and crazy. In the case of Chopper, he was able to regain his senses after Frankie threw him to the water during Annie's lobby. But in the case of the awakened Zoan user, that may not be the case, because they're fully absorbed into the devil fruit itself. So the Zone Awakening still have some things, some nooks and crannies to work out, but it probably harkens back to ultimately what Kaido said in chapter 1046, where awakening is what happens when your mind and body catch up to your powers. Rob Lucci was able to train his mind and body to the point where he could handle awakening, but the impelled down jailer beast did not train to that extent to handle awakening. Therefore, they lost themselves to their own abilities. This likely will not happen with the other types of devil fruits, since it's the Zoans that are based off of actual living creatures, and so the will of those living creatures will take over the will of the host, if you would, like some sort of cordyceps fungi parasite taking over the body of an insect. If they're not properly trained for their abilities and their minds aren't fortified and strengthened, they can lose themselves if they awaken the wrong way or prematurely. So that's probably why at the beginning of that same chapter, 1046, Kaido asked Luffy, "Who are you?" Because it was possible that Luffy was no longer Luffy. Also, this is very, very similar to the Mink Su Long situation. A mink who has properly trained, like Carrot or Wanda or Inoneko, they can utilize Su Long and handle it correctly and efficiently. However, someone like Peckham's in chapter 897 could not handle the Su Long transformation and start to go berserk. So this probably is indicative of a lot more than folks would first perceive, but the Zoan Awakening stuff and the Mink Su Longs are very, very similar. After all that, Vegapunk's main body is already in the Labo phase, running into the room with the other Vegapunks. So this means that what we saw in the previous chapter, which did look like stealth that we've seen drawn for Sanji's Raid Suit transformation, and of course, City of the Brain's different ability, it's not that per se, and it's actually warping. He actually warped, and he controlled space and time via tech. Though, there's an argument that another video, another day, but you could make an argument here where there are some similarities in the world of One Piece with warping space and time and stealth. But again, another video, another day. Now, the big kahuna, the big cheese, the part of the story progression that I'm pretty sure most of you guys and gals are looking forward to the most. Vegapunk's comments, his theory video on the devil fruits, and my god, this is a robust So listen, man, I had actually, because I recorded a part for this video before, then I had to think about it more, take a shower, blah blah, and now I'm coming back again because I've decided that, here's what I'll say. It seems to be, when you read the Viz translation, that Vegapunk's words are both figurative and literal. So if there's a mix and match of both, it just kind of depends on where you lean towards more of the figurative versus more of the literal. And I'll say what I mean here in a second. But there is a lot to digest. However, not the complete story, because I believe, of course, we need to have a Void Century flashback to get the complete whole kin caboodle about the devil fruits. So let's enjoy this magnificent chunk of lore as it is, and we're going to break it down step by step and piece by piece here. So first things first, he explains how in the oldest books about devil fruits, there is no such ability as the gum gum fruit. This matches up with what the Gorosei were talking about in chapter 1037, about how the Hito Hito no Mi Mano Nika was erased from the pages of history. This is potentially also a play on trying to erase the power itself if the name or the knowledge of the power itself grants it power in some roundabout way. It's like a more literal power-based version of what Dr. Hideluke said about how you die when you're forgotten. Number 2 is that Luffy looks like a god who only appears in the oldest of texts. So it's not just the Devil Encyclopedia, but it's general text. Texts in general of the ancient times had the sun god Nika. So this does raise the likelihood that a quote god of sorts did exist, and this is particularly the case here if these texts predate the Void Century by hundreds or thousands of years. Oh man, there is a lot of big videos on the horizon, but there is a video I did, a deep dive into One Piece Film Red. I won't spoil anything, I promise you that, but if you watch the movie and you're curious, in this deep dive, I do talk about gods. And yes, no lie, again, no spoilers, but there is a god section in that deep dive. So be on the lookout for that video, for damn sure. After this, number 3, Vegapunk mentions that as long as people, quote, wish for him, end quote, of course, up top of the sun god Nika, his existence will never truly disappear. So that's where the whole Dr. Hideluke stuff comes from. But it also harkens back to the story of Who's Who talking about the sun god Nika in chapter 1018, how the slaves would pray to the sun god Nika in the long distant past. In the long distant past. And he even uses the phrase, quote, did they dream him up, end quote, which kind of goes in lockstep with what Vegapunk is talking about. But we're not done yet. Number 4, devil fruits are the, quote, possibility for human evolution that someone desired, end quote. And, quote, all of those powers represent the many branches of the future of humanity. And this, I think, in some ways does push back against the idea that the fruits themselves are being manifested, actualized directly by thoughts and imagination. Like people could literally just wish upon a star, spirit ball style, and then make a devil fruit on the spot. No, that is not what I'm getting here from the Viz translation. Not at all. Number 5 piggybacks on the idea that the crazy possibilities for human evolution that someone / people desired back then would lead to the fruit's creation, but it's unnatural. That's why they are loathed by the sea / Mother Nature. So something about the devil fruits doesn't flow with the natural order of the world itself. When someone's a fruit and their DNA is altered, that is an improper evolution of some kind, and Mother Nature is not about that life. And then finally, number 6 is these powers exist in a different dimension dreamed up by someone else before them. And this idea of another dimension kind of sealed the deal for me in some respects, because I do talk about this again in the upcoming One Piece Film Red video that I have coming out later this week. Once again, be on the lookout. Be on the lookout. So this is absolutely major stuff when it comes to the devil fruits and their creation, their existence, X, Y, Z, and the other. And so an unnatural existence is, I think, something we've seen time and time again in One Piece, where you have unnatural / supernatural existences. So, for example, Brook's devil fruit allows him to live as a skeleton. That is an unnatural existence, obviously. But remember that Brook, when he died, he came back to life. And in the process, he went to the, quote, underworld, end quote. What is the underworld in the world of One Piece? Is it real? Is it another dimension in the world of One Piece? Think of, let's say, you could argue the Kuwabatarmen, where the Kuwabatarmen are ships that somehow gain a consciousness, let's say maybe through the collective will, hockey arguably, right? Because hockey does have a soul component to it. Maybe the crew members of said ships over the course of time, when they treat the ship like a living thing, when they ride it to their home, and then they give that inanimate object a degree of life. It's an unnatural existence for an inanimate object to have, quote, life. You can argue potentially in the same vein as the Black Blades, where some swordsmen treat their swords as if they were living things. Their swords in the process can reach a higher level of grade. So you can argue that these things in One Piece have existed for a very, very, very long time. And I myself have said time and time again where there are supernatural elements to the world of One Piece. However, devil fruit creation seems to be a bit unique, even compared to the other supernatural phenomenon. There is an encyclopedia of devil fruits that already exists. However, the encyclopedia is not full in the sense of illustration. So according to Ichiro Oda, in SBS 45, he says, and I quote, "I think I'll eventually get to explaining more about devil fruits in the main story, but you see, there's a book of devil fruits. It has info about all kinds of fruit names and abilities, but few of the fruits can actually be identified by their shape. In the case of the Gomu Gomu no Mi, there was a picture and everything. But for Kaku and Caulifla, they were talking about how they wouldn't know until they finally eat the fruit. And that very idea kind of goes in lockstep with the old encyclopedia that Vegapunk talked about, where they did erase the name of the unique ability from the encyclopedia, but the encyclopedia itself still existed and maybe was always being updated over the course of time via illustrations of the abilities. However, the idea is also that all devil fruits that exist in the world of One Piece already existed back then in ancient times. Now, it might be the case, maybe, that new fruits were found and then it was slowly updated over the course of time. And if that's the case, then it would be kind of like a spirit ball-ish thing, but not like an immediate effect, but more so folks' collective will or desires, or potentially even animals' wills and desires. So for example, animals' wills and desires could create the zone category of devil fruits. So if there were a herd of elephants back in the day that, let's say, wanted to fly around like Dumbo, maybe that collective will of the elephants actually created some flying type devil fruits. So things of that nature, if you take them more literally rather than figuratively, would mean that these things can kind of coalesce and form in an alternate plane of existence, and then in that process, over the course of time, spawn like some sort of legendary Pokemon. Radical idea, it's a radical proposition. However, if this pertains to only the ancient times where all the fruits already did exist, but again, the drawings, illustrations weren't completely drawn in, then the means, the mechanisms by which you can create a devil fruit to, quote, actualize it, someone's desires and hopes and so on and so forth, that has been lost over the course of time. Again, the current world is trying to catch up to the old world. There's a reason why Vegapunk's tech is always lag behind the tech of the ancient kingdoms. There's a reason why Goldie Roger himself stated, "Joy Boy, I wish I was born in your time." And I think that is part of the reason. Whatever was going on during the ancient times was wild. And if devil fruits could literally be spawned in mass in those ancient times, they had something. Whether it was tech, energy, these ancient people had access to this something that clearly modern day people lack. That's where currently I stand my ground. Now, after all this, Sentomaru pulls up with S-Hawk, S-Snake, and S-Shark, and Vegapunk gives him an ultimatum, and he takes control of S-Bear again, and then it's him and the Seraphim versus, of course, CP0. And then in the process, Stussy reveals the command hierarchy for the Seraphim and potentially all, A-L-L, all Pacifista, because she uses the words Pacifista. Keep that in mind. She does not just use the word Seraphim, referring to these clone Chichibukai. She also refers to all Pacifista. That's a little more broad here, because who else is probably located within this authority hierarchy is Monkey D. Dragon. Because Dragon, we see command Kuma in chapter 1058. So how high is Monkey D. Dragon on the command authority hierarchy? Is he up there with the Gorosei? If he is, why? So these are things that folks have discussed. Is Order 66 going to be real in the World One Piece? Potentially. After all this, finally, Luffy and Satomaru agree to terms, but then Rob Lucci pulls a very Gucci move and then just deads Sentomaru. He's down out. And now it appears there's going to be a massive dogpile on Luffy since Jinbei and Chopper are running away. So it could be, well, actually, to be fair, the dogpile may not be as big as you think it is, because will S. Snake really be on board with this idea? After all, she has the Boa blood in her, and that Boa bloodline has a strong affinity for the monkey bloodline. So there's a possibility where S. Snake is not about that life. Very possible. So that is it for the story progression components for this chapter. Whew! And now for the final thoughts. This chapter, sweaty, deep dive, a lot more things going on here. The lore is great. The combat is cool. I'm still not going to forget that Luffy literally slept on this man mid-dodge. The stuff of the Devil Fruits is just it's so deep and it's so nourishing. And it does so arguably so much for the story, but it's still vague enough to where we still can't grasp the true reality of the situation. And arguably speaking, we do get more questions in the process of Vegapunk's theory, because ultimately it's just a theory. It's probably not until we get the Void Century flashback we actually get a clear understanding of the nature, the true nature of the Devil Fruits themselves. And man, oh man, the Zoan Fruits, their stocks are rising, because Rob Gucci has this crazy form, and he's a regular Zoan, not mythical Zoan, not even ancient Zoan. He is a regular leopard Zoan, and he looks that ferocious, that nasty. He's matching Luffy's energy. Now, of course, that's just the design. In terms of power, I mean, Luffy hasn't even used that much hockey yet, right? You know, like, he's still kind of free. He's extra free right now. Lucci looking extra free right now, despite his awakening. And also you wonder, when it comes to the Navy, will this also involve the G14 base that we see in 1061, where Tashigi and Doll and Helmeppo and so on, and Smoker maybe? Like, will these folks also be involved with whatever's going on right now? And Kizaru's involved too. So you could have 4 or 5 different factions involved in this one arc. You have the Navy, you have the Navy sword guys, then you have CP0, the Vegapunks, the Strat crew. Yeah, like legitimately there could be 4 or 5 different factions involved in this one arc moving forward. But in itself though, this chapter I thought was a very good chapter. Again, the pacing was great. The character section was really good. Not like fantastic, but it was really good. And the story progression, phenomenal. The story progression is phenomenal. So this chapter, in my book, gets a 9 out of 10. I like this chapter a lot on so many fronts. 9 out of 10 chapter. So on that note, if you're still here, do me a solid and support your boy with a thumbs up, with a subscription, and click on that bell to join the notification squad. I'm gonna see you guys later. Be easy. Take care. Have a nice one.